Oh, I'm so glad you're back tuning in to Medical Experts in Football. I'm Taiwo, a bilingual soccer and injury journalist, as well as a orthopedic specialist in physical therapy. And today's special guest hails from Greece, but currently lives all the way in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, because it's for female football. It's not the medical department now. It's really connected. The whole medical department now, at least in our team in Ittihad, they're really
Mm-hmm.
good professionals, and we're female and male team. We're communicating about protocols. We're creating our own things regarding testing but back then, when we started, there was nothing. Even we didn't even train in our field. They're constructing the field area, so we are renting fields around the city in order to
Mm-hmm.
train and to also see players. Because our old coach, it was the first team, and two, three more teams back then that they start building a female team around here, and it was the first after they already have 1, 2 seasons, but not as a professional as Europe.
And that's physio Maria Stergiou, who has her master's degree in football tactical analyst and is also working on her PhD at La Escuela Universitaria Real Madrid Universidad Europea. Sit back and enjoy. Even though I have seen that you have been probably all over Europe, it feels like Greece is where you were born. Where in Greece would you consider home? And what about Greece has not left you, having traveled to all of these countries that which we'll talk about shortly?
Okay, yeah, I was born and raised in Greece. My parents are there. My whole family is there. I have three more brothers there, and I finished physical therapy 13, 14 years ago. And after that, I pursued like in Greece. Back then, there wasn't so obviously in many countries also so popular regarding biomechanics, regarding osteopathy, manual therapy, everything like that. So
Hmm.
we started with seminars after the university. So things like that, small things like that, because I always pursue knowledge, gave me connections with many people around the world, and I always want to push more. I want to learn more. So that's why I was all over, and I didn't actually live all over the world, but I was connected with people around the world and traveled for
Oh,
seminars, for conferences. And the
okay.
past years, I'm working outside Greece. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. What about kind of maybe the Greek educational system that has kind of expanded your mind to kind of dip into different areas, not just physical therapy, but other aspects regarding to getting an athlete back on the pitch healthy?
Okay. My professional journey is more than a personal journey. So back then, when I was 18, I was like so obsessed to go to the army. So I want to give again exams. And the Greek, it's Pan-Hellenic exams. There's no easy in Greece to go to university. Everything is public, so you have to give exams, and you cannot pay to go to where you want to go and study. Anyway, in the second year that I gave the exams, I passed in physical therapy, and I said to myself, okay, let's try. Maybe it's something that you like, but you will like.
Hmm.
And in the end, because I like too much sports and how in an holistic way, how you help your own body in order to improve, and also communicating with other athletes. This helped me also in physical therapy because it was something with medical and something with performance and sports regarding sports.
But you mentioned something about military. When did that
Yes.
detour happen that set you on that path to do physical therapy?
Yeah, I don't know how this happened. I mean, I usually like paramedic and medical stuff in
Mhm.
general. I'm like so triggered about the human body since I was a kid, and biology and chemistry and everything like that. So military, there's also a structure of military medicine in Greece. And I didn't want to go to medical school, but I want to be something around it and around physical performance and something like that. So back then, also in Greece, the attitude of being a physical therapy and the perception was really like a massage therapist, which is really evaluated now also in our area. But
Mhm.
back then, we are like, they connect physical therapy more with massage and relaxing, and
Yeah.
recovery is only massage and
Mm.
return to place like that. Just
And
wait the time to pass and put a modality or two, and then and that's it.
yeah, yeah, occasionally,
So
I
some
mean that
so
that
small
happens.
perceptions back then. Try to, in my own brain, try to explain how I'm gonna help people's perception change, like small steps during my whole life, and trying me to not convince, but also see, told them that, like, tell to the people or to my colleagues, like, there's the other side also. Even in our field, you have to be in different positions to understand how the body works, how you can help the patient, how you can help the athlete. And that's
Yeah.
what drives me more.
And just out of curiosity, have you seen that perception of physical therapy shift in your country? Because you're not actually
Yes, it's
working there
actually
now.
turning around. There are not many years actually leaving that I left Greece, and I have contact with my sister is also a physical therapist. But the perception is still in the older population. The new people and the people who are more with sports, and they see results more during exercise and exercise rehab or osteopathy or manual therapy and stuff like that. And the media now is really promoting these things. And I think people are changing. Not too easy, but they realize the difference between a passive physical therapy and the normal physical therapy and the sports physical therapy. And
Right.
there's nothing normal, but our profession is so global in many aspects. So regarding the area also you work, you have to adapt. But I changed many positions during my profession regarding hospital, kids rehab, amputees, clinics, and then sport. And I realized that combining all this background, the basics is perfect body biomechanics and understanding also the holistic way of treatment.
Gotcha. And when you combine those, as you mentioned, you worked in all of these different settings. There is a something that's very similar, and you mentioned, were you saying that it's the biomechanics? You're able to apply that kind of regardless of any setting that you work in?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think it's the only field that I really want to discover more and more, because now technology is inside that, and sometimes
Yeah.
there's something new every 3 months or every 6 months, like, oh, GPS analysis, let's start GPS, let's
Yeah.
understand the body, how it works. Then it's so tactical, and everyone wants to go and be tactical analyst. But for me, this different knowledge is not like I'm a fully technical analyst. I'm not a GPS analyst. I'm not a nutritionist, because in Spain we did nutrition and performance
Mhm.
background. But this helped me small to actually make a whole picture of a patient or a sports person, because when you reach the 80% or 70% of rehab, you want the 80 and 90 or 100, and there are people trying to find why you cannot reach 100, and maybe the lack is something else that you lose in the information going. It's not only body, and it's not like it's body and mind, and the way you where you play. It's many.
Mhm.
It's everything actually, and you also know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but it's good for our listeners as well because some of our listeners are not medical professionals, so it's definitely good to get kind of that global aspect. Now, also, where you are right now, you are in Saudi Arabia, if I'm correct me if
Yes.
I'm wrong. And I know that just like you mentioned, you may have not lived in all of these places, but you certainly have had connections from Spain, France. And in my mind, you seem like somewhat also of a nomad, and you mentioned how you're able to adapt anywhere and you consider home kind of the people around you. I'd like to think I'm a nomad, but home for me is like where the food's at. So if I'm in Italy, that's home.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's definitely where people are for me as well. But since arriving in Saudi Arabia in 2023, I believe, how have the culture and people influenced the way that you see home today?
Yeah, actually, Saudi Arabia was not a challenge for me. I mean, I I didn't went to the military, but my mind is working like that. So everywhere
Yeah.
I go, I'm like, I have my own rituals. I'm like waking up early. I have to study. I have to do my own thing. So I
Uh-huh.
adapt in even a closed culture or in an open-minded people or closed-minded, because there are people thinking Saudi Arabia is behind the world, and but the
Hmm.
media is and everything is growing fast here, and also there are people who want to learn from us. So we did the online meeting with the old coach we had, and we had the interview to come here.
Hmm.
She was super excited, and I was also super excited because we have a new project to create from zero. So I really love to help people, and people really embrace me and hug me, and I don't know why they love Greeks here,
Yeah.
and general
Okay.
people from Europe, and they appreciate that we know things maybe in a different way, not more than them, but the knowledge is different regarding our field, and
Hmm.
they want to be educated, at least one percentage of them. So it's not just like putting work down; it's also learning from them, because we need to adapt in a different model of not culture, the
Hmm.
climate. Like if you think like Spain is a hot country, and here is full time summer.
Uh,
Now it's like September, October in Europe, and this is considered winter in Saudi Arabia. So
right.
the
Yeah.
worst thing for me to adapt is the climate, not the people.
Climate.
And I'm really happy with the people around me. And also in my work, I have many colleagues from Europe. So I'm
Yeah.
actually around people I know.
Gotcha. And you talked about how, and this probably is very true. Sometimes people think of, Saudi Arabia being behind in some ways, whether it's medicine or other aspects. But in some ways, are there some areas of Saudi Arabia that is drastically different from kind of the life that you lived in Greece?
Actually, football
Yeah.
reminds me of Greece, and in a way of the perception of the fan clubs, and it's like some years back in my country, like the fans. I really love the fans, especially in our club. They're like so obsessed with the sport and more with the players and everyone around them.
Hmm.
Even in a big country like USA, because I was there for 6 months, and there are small groups and there are people working with you. So it's like consider a small village, and it's something like that. So if you integrate with the people around,
Hmm.
there are some perceptions from the past, and some people are more progressive. So you try to make them realize that we're in a different uh, how you say, not era, but so we try to move forward, and you
Hmm.
respect also the perceptions they have from the past, not just professionally but also regarding the sport, and also regarding the family and everything, because Saudi Arabia, the thing that I admire is that they put family at the first uh, level of human connection. And many people in Europe and even in my country, they think that they're, because they're Muslims, they're different. We are Christians. Actually, in my country, we are Christians Orthodox. And it's not about, I don't know how we're going to dip in this thing, but it's not about
Yeah.
religion and culture, but it's about human perception. And I think in every country, you can find people open minded and close minded, and people who want to learn and adapt. And in the end, in this world, we all die one day. So I consider it a
Mhm.
life journey in general.
Yeah, yeah. And one thing that I absolutely like, I don't know that it's true. However, for my research, I did appreciate the fact that they were stating that you cannot photograph women without their permission in Saudi Arabia. In a sense, because for me, it's like I've, traveled all over the world, and, sometimes it happened in the States where people just randomly want to take photos, and I'm just thinking, wow, like this should be against the law. In Saudi Arabia, maybe does that feel like a little sense of added protection? What do you feel when you walk the streets?
I think no, it's not like depending the area also. I'm in Jeddah,
Mhm.
and it's like one of the second biggest cities around in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
But since I came here, things are changing dramatically fast. The women can drive like things that the past 5 years didn't exist. Now they exist. Not just building, like,
right.
but also with humans and human rights. And I think this happens also because multicultural and people from around the world coming here to work with. About the
Mhm.
picture, I think in certain places, yes, but it didn't happen to me. It never happened to me. And I never felt discrimination as a woman here, neither one day.
That's great.
Maybe in football in general, in our field,
Yeah,
and in
which
Europe, in every country, and
in every
in every
country,
sport
yeah.
also, not just in football. But
This
in
is true.
for me, if you're good in as a professional, feel good with yourself, not like knowledge thing. That the way that you treat people around you, colleagues, and the way you treat your patients and your sports persons, I don't think there would be a problem in general. Even the people in the street sometimes, the kids, and I think I go to in their mind, and I'm not reacting. And
Yeah.
like, you know my point. Every time I
Yeah.
see a different reaction, I say I put myself in their place because they're raised with different culture and different people around them. So I
Yeah.
cannot judge anyone. But
Yeah.
to tell you the truth, I never felt this thing. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, that's awesome.
I
And you
felt it more in women's football instead of women in general.
oh, okay. You mentioned that you aren't necessarily in love with football, but you're in love with sports and your work. The journey first started with some case studies with individual football players, and you're analyzing them. Why was soccer the sport of choice to analyze, and what did you discover early on that kept you on this journey to work with a football team?
My background started with working in a general hospital, then at the same time with a university, like a physio tutor, since I
Mhm.
finished university, and I like this thing and process. Then since I want to learn more about manual therapy and chiropractic medicine, I joined classes. And in the same time, I was also practicing in one of my best professors in Greece, watching different people in a different way that I never seen in my university, in my bachelor's degree. And then my parents insist of me opening a small physical therapy clinic in my area. So I
Mhm.
say, okay, let's do it, Maria, because in the same way I could have my own money, and I want to pay for my own studies and also develop my own things. I had the basic knowledge and a little bit more for opening that, and people supported me in a way, in a really professional way, and I really appreciate them. Um, but the main field in our area and the main sport was soccer, was football.
Mhm.
So individual players from the youth, especially coming to me, and they have like an ankle sprain, and I tried to with my manual therapy lessons I was finishing back then, and I was trying to correct the ankle sprain through hip mobility and through core activation. And I realized that many things change in the brain and in the body of perception of the player, and especially when they're younger, like under 20s.
Mhm.
And that was the start of everything. I think I made in 2016 a first case study I sent like for fun to
Mhm.
FIFA medical conference.
Yeah.
And they told me, oh, you're ninth and you will come and talk in London. I was like, what?
Wow.
I was really surprised because it was like a hard work for myself with no research background.
Yeah.
I was really love reading papers and study things by myself, but no one told me this is right or this is wrong or this is the way you can move. Maybe that's the reason also why I learned so many things around, because I never had someone to guide me in my career, especially when I started and when I opened my clinic. So I never want to do a mistake, which is not actually a mistake. but I want to help my patients, and that triggered me more and more every time.
Gotcha. So you may have not necessarily had someone around you during those early years to guide you, but was there a moment that you started to have these mentors that maybe just honed in on maybe some of your thought process or gave you some extra tools to put in your toolkit that changed the way that you might have saw something about kind of whether it's the analyzation of the players or anything like that?
Yes, it was my tutor back in my manual therapy classes, which is also osteopath.
Hmm.
And sometimes we really study medicine in order to treat also core or any other pathology regarding, like, imagine in my clinic that 60% of the people weren't athletes, maybe 80%. They were like 40s, 30s, frozen shoulders, hip surgeries, knee surgeries. There are many things like the thing that cleared my mind was him make me analyze and do my own assessment. So there are many times people with different kind of pain. But yes, imagine that my clinic, that what I was saying is like 60 to 80% of people with chronic injuries and not professional athletes.
Hmm.
Um, and we sometimes with assessments, I realized from him, not from my university back then, I see that there are many pathologies that lead to musculoskeletal issue. Like there may be a growing pain, but it's related sometimes with menstrual cycle and stuff like that. And it really helped me that to understand the human body and everything.
Gotcha. And now you are working for Al-Ittihad Club in Saudi Arabia. The professional league in Saudi Arabia, I believe it's in its third season with 10 teams. It sounds like y'all are probably midway through the season. The start of the season was last year in September. How was that journey like to joining a club in Saudi Arabia, a country you never lived in, completely different culture? What was that process like?
It was a 1 week decision. I was
Wow.
with my university. I was doing my master. I finished my master's with Real Madrid in Spain. I was sent from France to do. I was with tennis players in France, and then I was sent to do some extra internships in US.
Hmm.
And then my professor called me. Oh, we need to start a PhD. You are nominated one of the 9 people here. And I say, okay, I accept the position. And I was starting my PhD back then, and I was on my PhD research studies. So someone I had uploaded in a platform my CV in general because I love football, and they called me and they told me we prepared this new project. I didn't even know the teams around here and the clubs, and I only have a talk with sports performance and the coach back then, 10, 15 minutes, and they're people from the club to people from the club. Not money, not contract, nothing, just about the concept and the vision they have for Saudi Arabia and for the specific club. So it
Hmm.
was in 1 week, I told my tutor, my professor, is it okay if I do it from distance? And sometimes I travel for my research and because we have to do some studies. And she says, okay, you can
Hmm.
go. And I call my parents and say, I'm moving to Saudi Arabia. And they were like, okay, are you thought double or triple times that? Say, no, no, it's fine. Because for me, it was the creation of a new project. So when we arrived here, I didn't struggle to get adapted because I'm used to move a lot
Hmm.
and I like have connections with people. The only problem with me is like I have to get familiar with the situation and then it's okay. I can work. And
Hmm.
because I'm really shy and I'm really humble, even now when okay, you take me an interview, but every day in my daily life, I'm not like, oh, I know that and that and have this degree and this degree. So
Yeah.
imagine coming here and I didn't know with who I'm working with, how many physios I'm working with, if I'm like
Yeah.
organizing the physios or I'm working with the physio. So
Gotcha.
it was a
Wow.
good story back then, and we really had everything from zero. We have no clinic. We're constructing the facilities, and many times the physical therapy was everywhere.
Hmm.
So even we didn't have modalities, and for
And this is
me,
all
this was a really good.
and this is all within the professional club. Those first years, y'all may have not had the resources. Is
Because
that?
it's for yes, because it's for female football. It's not the medical department now. It's really connected. The whole medical department now, at least in our team in Ittihad, they're really
Hmm.
good professionals, and we're female and male team. We're communicating about protocols. We're creating our own things regarding testing, but back then when we started, there was nothing. Even we didn't even train in our field. They're constructing the field area, so we are renting fields around the city in order to
Hmm.
train and to also see players, because our old coach was the first team, and 2 3 more teams back then that they start building a female team around here, and it was the first. After they already have 1 2 seasons, but not as a professional as Europe. So it was the first international coach. I was the first international physio, and it was the first performance coach. And she's a really good friend of mine. She's still here,
Okay.
and this started like that,
Wow.
literally from zero.
Yeah. A lot of first things first,
First
for physio.
GPS using
Yeah.
with first time learning. That's why I actually joined tactical analyst, because I want to speak the language, and sometimes here you have to do many things, not just your job. And back then we had only one doctor for first female team, first male team, many academies, and imagine we have so many small injuries that didn't need to go to the doctor. We have to do a proper
Yeah.
assessment. So I
Hmm.
have to put all my breakdown and
Yeah.
focus
And
on that.
and right now, do you have a separate training pitch from the men's, or do you all share that
No,
that?
now the club is more organized. We have a clinic, and we also have a rehab a lab, and the men's have the same. And
Mhm.
another area close to us. And there's the men field where they train, and there's 2 3 more fields for female and for other boys academies. And this thing is really really huge, not with our club only, but with many clubs around the area.
And this is the women's clubs, would you say?
No, but we have female first team now, and we
Right.
also have U15, U17 for the first
Oh,
season. For the first, yes, and I think next season I don't know if they're gonna create more youth teams, but it's getting really, in a year that I'm here, second year now, it's double people around working and also players.
wow, that's great. Just so I backtrack, make sure I get that right. So you are still in the process of getting your PhD in sports medicine. Technically, this school is in Madrid,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
were certain within a week that you wanted to work
yeah.
in Saudi Arabia. That certainty that you had to decide that in 1 week, do you still feel that certain fulfillment or ambition now that you're there working on, as you mentioned, these projects from ground zero?
Yeah, actually, Saudi Arabia helped me also to. It's like I have my own sports clinic here, because I can be creative with new people around me, and also work with the things already worked. But sometimes there are many things that lack, and we need to upgrade. And regarding my PhD coming here, it was also good for me because I work too much, and when I go home, I want to do something to focus on, and I love studying. So being imagine I was in Europe, I was telling that to my friends, and after work we go for a beer or something, or we go out.
Mhm.
But here I have to come again next day and be focused.
Yeah.
So for me, like the going out was going in my laptop and be connected with my university.
Yeah.
And it's good because I see my other teammates and then my other colleagues, and I talk with my
Uh-huh.
professor often. And I had to travel occasionally for some research things.
Yeah. And you mentioned how you can be creative, you can kind of, think of different things that you want to try. But I also find sometimes it's interesting in the professional settings. At the same time, the clinicians can have this sense of independence, but as well as at times it can feel as if they're also told what they need to do, especially sometimes at these higher clubs. But is that something that you have noticed at times just regarding to not having as much autonomy, or do you feel that you really have the ability to kind of try whatever really you think could work for a player at any given time?
Mm, regarding the players, no, I was limited not because people didn't want to help, because they're like family here, especially in our club. The
Hmm.
thing is that we didn't have, especially for the female team, we didn't have the proper timing sometimes, and we didn't have. We need in a specific situation, we may need like a machine or to do an assessment with a proper equipment, but we need to close an appointment with first team staff, and it was really difficult back then because
Hmm.
also you have to respect the culture. Okay, it's not like Europe, everyone goes around and female in the male departments. It's like for me and my colleagues, yes, but for the players, that I can go anytime I want with a female player, and maybe if a male player is rehabbing. This was happening in Europe also, but here you have to respect also the boundaries of the culture.
Hmm.
So we have to, sometimes I have to adapt in that, and also adapt in the culture in general, because in Europe we used to do periodization and rehab regarding morning and late schedule, and you can combine gym and rehab and later training. But here you have to do everything usually in the midday and until night.
Okay. So,
Especially now Ramadan is coming, it's gonna be our night shift.
yeah, because they need to obviously eat before they start training.
Yes, so everything
Wow.
are postponed 2-3 hours later, and our trainings will be around 8:30, 9:30, depending, because there are
PM.
many teams that want to train after. Yes, many teams they want to train after 7, those because they have to eat something, and then they will digest it, and then they train or do some activation in the gym.
So you're nearly finishing training close to nighttime. Is that right?
Yes, and usually if there's something regarding rehab, we have to do it straight after, because I believe it's better to check and reassess next day.
Hmm.
But because also of the players, they want to eat and they want to sleep not so early, so it's
Yeah.
better for us also to finish after midnight.
And I'm just curious, how does that shift the game schedule, or does it?
They have a break or something, like there's specific dates they're not playing games. There's only 1-2 games. They try to make it less, but it's actually next week we have a game, and the Ramadan is starting this Saturday, and we try gradually in a month to adapt to the new schedule. So if we're training earlier because it's winter now and there's not so much heat outside, imagine we train sometimes around 5. Now we go
Hmm.
around 7. So maybe in the end of the week we start around 8:30 and 9. So they start used to it. But last season was really difficult for them to shift between
Really?
them, because we have many players who also developed their fitness during these 2 years,
Hmm.
and working out with internationals, and this needs time to work out, which is actually, it's actually a project, and they now realize how this should shift really slowly, and we're not like machines, and not even the whole structure. You cannot wait
Hmm.
results in 1 year and 1 season. And in general in football, I know everything, and everyone looks for the win, and everyone wants to win.
Yeah.
But regarding my department, I don't see only injuries. I think that you have to have the perception that you're in a culture that the body needs to adapt. Okay, you can break any international, you can score and you can win. But if you want to play with Saudi players and you want to develop the Saudi league, you have to think about their bodies also.
And I am a little curious. When you mentioned your department, how many medical staff do you have? Particularly even that are physical therapists and then, the other departments working with just the women's team.
On the first female team, it's me organizing with my team, which is two more female physios from Saudi, and one
Mhm.
for the first female team, and it's one more female physio, which is for the academy U15 and U17, and
Mhm.
hopefully next season we start building more. And
Okay.
we
So you
also this season, we proposed as a we really like to cooperate and learn people around. And I'm really happy for this idea. It's getting now. It's like a surprise to tell you, but it will be happen in 1 month, probably 2 months. And we're getting students from the university, the most popular university here, from physiotherapy, because
oh,
the thing is, okay, I will live here for 2, 3, 5 years, but what's the reason for me being here? Treating a player or creating the athletes? And okay, I can build the department, I can help my physios, I can also learn some stuff, different stuff. But
mhm.
the heritage we live here, it's to train in sports related situations, other physios. And the only thing it lacks here, even from the old physiotherapists, is the sports performance regarding and the sports rehab. So there are people who want to learn, and it's good also to start to learn with the things we had in Europe. Internships in the football club, they don't have it here. Internships in a hospital, they have it, but internships in
Mhm.
the sports section, it's something that is not working.
Now, when you say is it not working, do you feel that maybe there's just not enough attention yet on it? Do you feel that this could be something?
Yes, I think this is shifted right now because everything want to like every sport is coming here also, and people want to invest in that. And I think it will be more and more year by year around Saudi Arabia and the countries around here. So since more attention is given to this field, and there are many people want to uh, get more knowledge and adapt and be better, that we also do in Europe.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
more you give more attention in learning more, and they want to learn more from us. And also I think there will be more things in the universities in general in the
Yeah.
future, and not just in clinical practice.
Gotcha. Well, that's very interesting and really cool, kind of how you talked about. I mean, obviously, you're interested in, sports medicine, but the impact that you want to make is really more than just to provide care, to really kind of advance also their kind of sports department as well. But a department that I think all over the world, that could be, I don't want to say that it's not there, but perhaps clinicians may not have as much insight given you've actually done what we call, is it the FSI, Master Football Tactical Analysis? And
Mm.
certainly as clinicians, we learn the body, we learn about all of these injuries. Can you shed some light a little bit more about this master's program?
Oh yeah, it was last season that I really want to understand the position and return to play, not
Mhm.
just return to play, and actually return to performance and competition. And in my mind, it was something like a chaos, the new also from ACL, the new structures that was given 2, 3 days ago. And it's
Mhm.
actually my mind. And everything was okay, time wise, regarding a clinic, regarding a sports, a sports rehab clinic. But regarding football, and you need, I think, to focus more on that and how you're gonna make a player and to return to play in the position he used to play. Regarding physiology, regarding biomechanics, and actually this master, my colleague, we were just chatting around, and there I saw my old professor and from Real Madrid, the doctor of Real Madrid, Jesus, almost there, and they were like, oh, and there's this one and this one, and I saw many people around football area, like from different professions regarding coaching stuff, and we do a small research, and I say I will do it and I will try it, and it wasn't. It was difficult because the terminology. I was like sometimes googling the because they use more football words, but it was really to the point that you learn the basics and then you can learn more. But I want to learn the football perspective of how you analyze. Not to be a tactical analyst, but how do you analyze the body regarding the position? So many times they analyze the videos in the small shortcuts because it's online lessons. And I was looking the body movement and I was like, oh yeah, this is like that. The winger should sprint because of that. And so we use this muscle instead of, and it was really interesting.
And from your physical therapy and analytic mind, maybe can you give me an idea how you would how you would describe your thought process in determining the needs of a defender versus a striker, particularly when it relates to rehabbing or getting back to the pitch from an injury?
Okay, there are different type of injuries, as you know, like short, long term, and regarding the fiber. And if it's a big injury, a small injury, or a grade 1, 2, 3, the classifications are huge. Regarding the position wise, I realized that some things, the basic things we already knew, but I realized I will make you an example of the ACL, which are many in this season, not in our area. I mean, not in here, but in general, female ACL players, many of them. We had last season a girl from ACL who was a midfielder, and this season winger returned to training and returned to play. So there's much difference in the rehab. When you reach the first levels, okay, of rehab, but when you find after third, fourth phase, when you want to return to training, for example, the winger has to start to have more change of direction, focused, more explosiveness, more 1v1 scenarios in order to return to performance and not to re-rupture the same ACL or the other leg, and also focus on hamstring strength. But the midfielder, the girl we had last season, we focused more on hip motor control and core strength, and more scenarios more on close compact with the other person. And also cardio was not so, we didn't reach for explosive cardio like a sprinter, but more for resistance cardio. So this changed a lot my mindset of return to training and return to play. And now I see the new papers, they're out for return to field training, which is also part of rehab with the physios. So I'm really glad that things are moving to this level, because I think all the injuries are re-injured because of this, because we lack something in rehab. And I know there are people from other fields like performance or maybe coaching that they wonder, oh, why are you messing in my department? But I think around they realize that we need to help each other, and there's a vicious circle, like a triangle. And I try to explain many times that if there's a deficiency there, and also the performance, they help me a lot. They would try, if we want to increase the speed, we need to increase this thing. If we want to increase the strength, we need to increase this. And in the end, we all agreed that there's not only the basic skills we want to improve, it's more the technical skills that lack in a game situation scenario, because you cannot predict the game. You can also the physical therapy test, the counter movement jump, dynamometer tests. There are some functional tests, but they're not so functional because I see that we're not moving in a two-dimension like in the field. It's a
Yeah.
multi-directional dynamics, and
Right.
especially in football.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to you talked about how certainly it's really a team effort, collaborating together. In your mind, how and during what phase does physical therapy and that tactical analysis, as you described, considering, the midfielders, the man, when does that work hand in hand to get a player back to the pitch? Is it as soon as they get injured, or is there a certain phase when they're returning to their sport that you start to consider that analytic aspect?
Sometimes not even before we have an injury. So my next thought is for discussing with performance, and I think we all do it in a good way next season. I don't know if I'm here or everywhere I am.
Hmm.
The thing is that we need, if you analyze it, you sometimes see also the deficiency of the position. Like maybe this player and it's not good for being in this position, so it cannot perform 100% because the body doesn't give for this position, and
Hmm.
maybe you will cause an injury regarding this position. It's not just an overuse injury; it's like physiology. And sometimes, okay, you can train deficiency and you can make it better. But I see many players who are coming from an overload injury, which is not overload. It's a wrong use of specific body biomechanics in the position they're playing. So either you have to reteach everything from zero, and it's really difficult to do it in a sports club like with many players. We can do it
Yeah.
individually, but yeah, needs at least 8 more physics and many
Yeah,
colleagues around, analyze everything. And but
absolutely.
it's
And that,
good if you use tactical in that case. Not, I don't like also prevention. I prefer robust as a word. I really found it last season as a really attractive word,
mhm,
and because you want to remodel everything that doesn't work properly with its
mhm.
body. We cannot work everything like a machine.
Yeah, and you talked about how you have analyzed and you've seen that some of it is just not so good mechanics. How do you actually analyze that in this club with just you and maybe one other? How do you actually do that with what we call limited resources, or what would you call it?
No, for now only on game day and practice day, or and when I was doing my studies, and there was the coach, the tactical analyst and systems coach from used to help me a lot. He saw me. He put me through the VO and the programs and the whole training of the team. So
Hmm.
it was checking things and how they move, and it's like when they sprint, and you can also combine with the GPS. We also combined in the lessons we had with the GPS. So if you
Yeah.
have maximum speed and the GPS and the movement of the screen is like in a different direction, and this is have an injury after, it's like okay, we know where's the problem.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a bit complicated even in my mind because it's like many information that I have it clear in my mind, but I mean, complicated regarding the way I have to help myself and the team to use
Hmm.
it here in a proper way, because it's again female football team and it's just starting working. So I think it needs a lot of pressure and a lot of resilience and patience and things to move around. And I hopefully the medical department in general and the first male team, they
Hmm.
really really help me regarding anything I want. Not just asking, but if I want to help for some assessment or analyzing something regarding a position of the player and stuff like that. They're really good colleagues.
Yeah, so right now at this club, it's really you using kind of your eyeballs to kind of observe and see what's kind of going on.
Yeah.
would you?
And I think even if you have the degree, like the analyst, okay, you have the title. It was more fascinating for the journey and the things I learned that I have to start using it day by day and see if they're actually having results. It's like physical therapy. You finish university, and you have the ego of sometimes, especially in our profession, the people with ego, I know everything. Oh, I did this practice and this, and I don't want to accept anything. But for me, I think I know nothing. I mean, I keep the basic things I learned, and I try to use them every day, small things in my practice. And I discuss a lot with the performance coach sometimes, and she's trying to help me the way of football, how I should see this thing to work with. And maybe sometimes we just discuss. We may don't do the results, but even that is a start of doing something great, I think. Or maybe not.
Yeah, no,
I'm just always positive thinking.
Have a expanded mind. However, there are clinicians that maybe don't ever get the chance to, get their master's in analytic or something like that. So in your mind, what advice would you give for a clinician when they're analyzing a player of maybe just one or two things to try to keep in the forefront of their mind when they're making kind of these decisions, trying to ensure that a player gets back healthy on the field?
If they want to focus in sports,
yeah.
Okay, I think in my mind, I'm completely separating the physical therapy from sports physical therapy. You have to you use the classical physical therapy, but you have to move more than 100%. You go 150 and sometimes 200 if you're in a more professional situation. And the thing they should analyze is the first thing for me is hear the player and see the body, feel the body, not just close the ears and after you hear the player, and also touch the body, hear the body. Don't just do something regarding by the book, because books are always books and there's a human aspect behind. And then discuss with the fitness coach, performance coach, and if you have the chance with the coach, the head coach. But for me, the good connection should be with the fitness and performance coach, because they are the ones who will understand you in a more football way. So even if you're not having the studies of tactical, of GPS, of everything, ask them why. I have a winger now with a hamstring injury and she's completely back to train, but maybe can you check with the GPS? Can you show me if there's a lack on this aspect before her injury and after her injury? And even if they don't have this technology in the club, because we also didn't have it since we started, and go person by person and do a connection with the player and with performance. And I think that's the way it has to be in general in every sport.
Gotcha. Okay. And we're going to shift gears because I know we're running out of time. You presented for the 8th time at the Isokinetic conference.
Oh, yeah.
Spain last year.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. It was my second time going, but I've had some guests obviously on my show that are regular attendees at this conference, which is how I learned about it. And you presented about the holistic journey in elite female football ACL rehab. I believe the individual was a 20-year-old Saudi Arabian professional female player who underwent that ACL reconstruction. Certainly, we know that the recovery from an injury is a journey in itself. But what is the significance of a holistic journey in the elite female athlete?
I think the psychological and is the basic of everything, and this in ACL in general, not just in football. And then the holistic approach is you have to hear the things we talked about before, and even in the first stages, you have to hear the athlete and regarding the body, regarding the mind, regarding the way they see and perceive things around them. And actually, this outlet came after two big. That was actually why I did the case study because she was here and she trusted me after two big rehab sessions she had in a big clinics, and I don't want to name anyone.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that missed back in this rehab. It was that she trusted and told me I was the holistic approach, like someone focusing individually, not just regarding the tests and the results and how we move forward to the next month and the next test and the next results. There are many players seeking that, maybe not, but in order to rehab holistically, you have to be above the player and be the friend, be the professional, and also be the one who listens all the time, even if it's for your bad or for your good. Because in the end of the day, our profession is to help humans and to perform and to return back to their previous level, even better.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
And
when she came to us, I told her we don't have anything of the fancy things you had in this sport clinics. I mean, we didn't have Alter G, we didn't have, the things that needs in a certain part of rehab, but we have to redo everything in a professional way. And also I clarified that we have to take you 2 steps back in order to move forward. And she was really, oh, I give you my trust and we will do it. But actually in this journey, everyone is a bit want to move forward really fast, especially female players. And we know because of the hormones and of like Q uncle, and there are many things we need to take on our mind regarding female players in every rehab session.
do you think it's female players that rehab quickly or male? Because I feel like I could see both, but you feel there's a difference between
Both,
male
yeah. Regarding the return to performance and
and
competition, I think women are more impatient, and the different of their body, because women's body is not so muscular and they lack of that. So we need to take at least 2-3 more months, safe months, and returning to performance. But men, they usually return to play faster. But I see that the problems are from that in general regarding both genders. But yes, I have to agree with you. Maybe
Oh,
because I work with women,
yeah.
and I see they're more impatient regarding, they're more enthusiastic, and even the emotions sometimes when something is not as expected and we have to go one step back, it's like we're women, okay? So I get the feedback of that, and sometimes I feel double times not satisfied for the results. So I have to come again next day. Let's go, and I have to motivate myself and motivate also the player.
Yeah. And that motivation from an emotional standpoint, because I read in that case, when you did receive that player, you noted that you took note of the player's physical and emotional burdens from their prior rehab. Is that something that you would do with both male or female, or is a female population more susceptible to having that emotional burden and willing to express that?
I think women are more prone to express that, and but male maybe have the same and worse, and they will not say to me or to the physical therapist so easy. Maybe there should be also a professional regarding psychology and gaining trust of everyone. But yes, it's the thing we notice around in all ACL players, and actually long injury rehab players, even if it's
Yeah.
a fracture and it takes more than 6 months to recover.
Mm. And how do you, I mean, certainly a player's going to open up if they feel, a safe space, but how do you create that environment for a player to feel like they can kind of share that emotional burden with you or the medical staff?
I'm just myself. I mean, I'm just going like a person and try to ask many questions around, because even for you or for me, it's not only the injury. maybe the injury is impacting my social life and the way I can move around, the people around me. And I'm just asking, even as a friend, like, how was your university? How is everything going around? Like, if there's
Yeah.
another problem adding to this problem. So maybe we can help all the way around in order to focus more on the problem itself.
Yeah. And those problems certainly, as you mentioned, throughout especially a ACL rehab, it's a very long kind of rehab. And I want to say about within that 6 month mark of that case study, you mentioned how y'all needed to go back a couple of months. When you say y'all had to go back, what were some of those challenging points that made you feel or decide to bring this athlete or slow the athlete's rehab down a little bit more?
The objective tests, only that. Because isokinetic results weren't as expected, and some fitness results with a performance was not as expected. So we also told the player, okay, we have the objective. Well, maybe you're in the 6 months now, but we need to go back to the 4th month, because also changing environments and situation changed twice, and we were the third one.
Yeah.
So you lose 1 month between, not because of the process, because you have to adapt with the new stuff, with the new clinic, with the new protocols. So I think she settled down, and she lost at least a month in order to realize where she is and working with the people around. And also, don't forget that we're not a clinic here. We try to do things like, right, because we also overwork, because we like our job, all the people we work with, but we're not having all the facilities, and sometimes we don't have all the, especially last season, we didn't even have a proper clinic, and I have to ask for going to the men's department certain times of the week, many of hours, and it was an extra job that we did it. We're glad to do it, but it was adding extra stress even with the player.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that extra stress too for you as a clinician, especially I guess closer to that 6 to 9 month mark. Obviously, it's not a time yet where athletes are getting back to full participation, but it is a time where athletes are able to do more. Would you say some common challenging rehab points at that point is sometimes making sure that we're hitting some of these milestones, as you mentioned, whether it's regarding to strength, different testing that can be difficult to tell an athlete they're not quite ready, or is there something else that sometimes seems to be a little bit more difficult for athletes to process, especially during that 6 to 9 months time?
I think the difficult thing, and now we have a young player also, it's to tell them not to touch the ball. Because, and sometimes it's psychological, and I try to introduce some exercises now in the field regarding biomechanics, and I'm really glad they're moving things forward to this phase, because even in the 6 months you can improve some technical skills with not so much force, change of direction, and you're not actually training the player, but also you can relax the mind regarding the sport and focus on specific rehab on the field.
Gotcha.
So the player is this month is not actually the results of the test. It's like in their mind, oh, my results are not good, so I will not play, because all the players want to play, and they think if they sit in the bed for 1 year, they can play next day. But this is not true. You need to put a lot of hard work, and maybe also that's what I'm trying to explain, especially with the youth players, is that if you have an injury in this age, sometimes okay, it's an injury because of the game and the effort you put in and your body's still adapting, but sometimes it's wrong biomechanics, especially an ACL. So why we are in this situation now and you're so young? We need to fix. It's a good point to restart everything, even your football technique and the way of stepping on the field. So it's a good opportunity to fix the body, the upper body, the core, the lower back, upper back, everything in order to function in the field. Because
Yeah.
the last thing we do is kicking the ball, but the whole
Right.
body is leading to that.
Yeah, and with kicking the ball, you mentioned something about the athlete not touching a ball. When is that the athlete isn't really touching the ball during their rehab? Is that kind of early on or?
I mean, touching the ball. I mean the word literally touching the ball. Like I put even in
Uh-huh.
the gym exercises with the ball. I try to make. We don't have so much equipment that I wish we had, especially in these
Uh-huh.
injuries. But I try to be creative and use. I need to activate this muscle and this muscle, so I have
Gotcha.
to modify this exercise in a way that it's more football specific. When I
Gotcha.
was in
So
tennis,
incorporating.
uh,
Okay.
yeah, and
Gotcha.
like in
Okay, that makes
tennis
more sense.
we need to, yes, it's like I'm like my brain sometimes tries to fix a puzzle and like a 3D 5D motion, and how we're going to help the player to do the sport in a different way. So the brain is actually thinking that it's doing it and correct, the
Right.
biomechanics correct, but you actually you have the feeling that you're playing the sport.
Right, right. And by that 9-month mark where some athletes are kind of getting into that return to performance phase, in any ways, does a holistic approach change at that point, or is there additional things you're now thinking about from a holistic standpoint?
I think when they're moving forward to return to training and return to with the teammates,
Mhm.
there's no much holistic approach, and it's actually stopping by itself. We also there and we also support and we also around the player if
Mhm.
something, and there's always the fear in the mind. And after also this injury, this player came many times during this year, and we need to check objectively everything with even with a doctor, but
Mhm.
we take this fear out because maybe sometimes there's something in the hamstring and we need to reevaluate and do everything, but her mind is, oh, maybe I have again an injury, or maybe I have an ACL, or maybe I have a meniscus, or
Yeah.
they have this fear of the field, and I think it's the next thing now in the era, because there are many players. I can divide them in two parts: the ones who were injured and do not care, they just don't fear anything. Maybe it's the
Mhm.
worst part, because even if they never tell us until it's a complete tear. And there are the other players who they have the fear of movement and the fear of coming back, and they want to come back in a competitive way, and the mind stops them there. And
Mhm.
I think this is the holistic thing. We need to move on. I try many things, and depending with the players.
And those things, what has helped, especially those challenging players that have that fear of movement?
A lot of breathing, motor control, more proprioception exercises, and meditation, actually by themselves, not with
Mhm.
me. And like some tactics in general, we try to advise them. And for sure, every time they need to talk and analyze something. And for me, the best thing is I got this feeling from this exercise. I don't want to do it again. Okay, come with me and sit down, and what you feeling and why you don't want to do the Nordics exercise, why you feel uncomfortable. And then we try to modify until she realize, okay, it's safe to do it. Because when you do the full range of motion of an exercise, sometimes they have the fear of something will happen.
Yeah.
And the objective results many times come there also to reassure that there's no predisposed for an injury. So
Right. Yeah.
I
And
think everything is conversation in every aspect of our profession.
absolutely.
And you have also to accept that sometimes you're wrong. Like maybe I did an exercise and I overload and muscle, or I will step up 1-2 days back, and I will listen to the player, and I will also change the program. And the only thing I used to have a lot in Europe and I miss is some different. We are different colleagues of physiotherapy, so we're connected a lot, different. And we also have a subject we discuss in a scientific way. So we sometimes have this conflict of no, we do that, no, we do that. But in the end, we all have to agree how we're going to move forward. If it's the wrong step, okay, we focus on this exercise. But if it doesn't work, we have plan B or plan C. So this is a risk I always take.
Yeah. And in closing, just about the female ACLs, in your opinion, do you feel in medicine we're continually moving forward with the female athletes and ACL injuries? What more would you hope to see within these coming years within medicine and obviously the female athletes and ACL injuries?
I think sports medicine and generally they're also giving too much focus in females and football and in ACL. I see research around all the time about why so many female players, but also the percentage is quite similar with male players. I hope they will guide us because I love science, but I want to see results. That's the only problem with science. And sometimes everything is theoretically good, but in practice doesn't work. So I hope they move forward to prove us why. And I think also the way they should think why it's happening, it's holistic. Maybe it's not only the way of movement, the way of the body biomechanics and stuff. Maybe it's the history of the player, where the player trained, and academy or not, and how was trained, maybe only in one position. And we also see many recent research telling that players who had multiple sports background are more prone to not get injured, not just for ACL, for any injury in their body. So I think we should move forward to this.
Well, as someone that played multiple sports, I did not have an ACL injury, but I did have a lot of other muscular injuries. So maybe that is partly true because I did never had an ACL injury, and I played soccer for many years. Well,
wow, that's cool.
Yeah. With all of those challenges in medicine, finally, what's the biggest challenge you find yourself facing as a clinician? Mainly, well, truly as a clinician who is always or seems to be eager to want to keep learning, even though in your environment you may not have every single device, the advanced device in the setting that you're in now.
I don't know. I really, and this is the answer I have many times. Like, if we ask me something and I'm like wondering and this is I'm overthinking, and this is really bad for me. But in the end, I accept that I don't know, and maybe that's was the point, that I want to learn more all the time. And when I finish something, I say, oh, what's the next thing I need to learn? But sometimes I step back and I say, I have to use the things I already learned in order to go and move forward to the next one.
Yeah, because at some point, do you actually feel that also fulfillment, like just take that time to that fulfillment to say, wow, like I applied something to, whether it's a given population, you learned it and it helped, it worked. Do you give yourself that moment to kind of reflect on that, or is it always what's next? What's next?
Yeah, and I think I need I have my psychology back then, because I was like, I have this emptiness all the time and I don't know why. And it's good because I use it in a level of self-development. I'm never competitive, I never have ego, but sometimes it's really bad because I have to step forward and say, oh, I know this. We have to work like that. But this is the thing that helped me a lot to adapt in every environment. And when I see my life from my 20s until now and my 30s, and even personal, even professional, there are many things have changed, but in the middle, it's like self-centered to the people around me. I'm not, even if it was family, even if it was the family of the team.
Yeah.
And everywhere I go, like if something happens to a player, I'm not gonna cry. I'm really strict in that, but I'm really how we adapt to the solution. We need to find a solution. I'm like, my mind is like, we need to find the
Yeah.
solution, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really weird. But I never stop and I never applaud myself. I'm like, and I'm really happy because I'm like, it's like actually I will tell you, we did the research. Now I can tell because we have confidentiality with the Spanish army. It was a part with Real Madrid and a part with army. And it was actually my back dream to be in the military. And it's
Yeah.
actually happening now with my papers. And we did tactical analysis and we tried to do the psychological effects of a stress factor and people from Afghanistan and people who like military, and we did some tests and they are released during this year, but before we couldn't even talk about that because like it was confidential. And I was super excited even during this research because it was actually in the things I wanted to do in my past life as a student, but I do
Yeah.
it as a clinician now. And in the end, it had also it also formed the whole cycle of physical therapy because it's the medicine that explains why also some biomarkers like cortisol and stuff we cannot realize in the past how can affect the performance not only on tactical population during military combat stressful situation, also in the field because it's like your brain perceives it like a war. So
Yeah.
this brain the things we do when we analyze is like our brain when we have also a past trauma, even if it's a psychological trauma like the people in the Afghanistan, and they do the tests again after 10 years and they cannot react to the same range of motion or the same locomotion when they don't have this stress on the path. Like it's like the game. It's if you
Right.
have an ACL player and you put them in a game situation, may don't have the same reaction in the game because of the trauma in the brain. And it's really nice to see this working. And I hope this is one part of another medicine, but I think it's gonna combine these two things in my brain. And I think I actually fixing my puzzle now, and it's like
Yeah.
a good thing I experienced all that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna give you a nice applause, even if you don't want to applaud yourself, because clearly it's almost to like a full circle moment. It's something you were wanting to, or you had an interest in as a student, and now as a clinician to kind of see that research coming through, that has to be also rewarding. So, one advice for a clinician who maybe is just starting their journey of kind of diving into research, trying to learn as much as they can. What is something that you would tell their younger clinician to remember even as they gain more experience over the years to also help them not only learn more but also enjoy that process of learning each and every day?
Just to be yourself for sure, but learn to adapt to every case scenario, even if it's good or bad, and never put your personal ego in front. At least I didn't do it, but I think this helped me to go through bad situations and good situations, and it helped me learn from my mistakes. And maybe I made again the same mistakes, and I relearned and
Yeah.
reprogrammed my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you can be independent because of this journey of your own self-respect and your self-awareness and respecting others. And also, the last part, they have to put their body and mind in others' mind and body, because sometimes we treat a patient or a player like an injury, but it's not just the leg; it's the way the player is moving, it's the way the patient is sitting in the chair, or it's the whole daily situation they face, even emotionally in their family. So I think last word was empathy, and it's a Greek word, and I think it's one of the best. It's the word I want to use. Like, be more empathetic, and in a way not passive, but in a way more active.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I agree. Empathy is something that we all can share and also to give to ourselves as well. I loved your message when you sent me, you said something about your journey hasn't always been happy or perfect, but you've never given up on yourself and you stay motivated. What's next? What more do you want to accomplish? And maybe it's something that has nothing to do with medicine, but maybe it's just in your life.
You're like my parents now, because since I was a kid, I was always pursuing knowledge and professional, and sometimes I was like a robot in emotional. Like, someone was dying from my family, I was like, okay, let's move to the next. Like, let's move to the next thing of our life, because we cannot change the death. It's something that ended. This is good motivation, but sometimes keeps you really, really. It keeps me more introvert than extrovert. But I don't know. I feel everyone around me thinks I'm sometimes depressed, but I'm really happy. When you see me work, it's like talking to you now. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
But in my personal life, I'm really to my own things, to my own word. And that's why maybe I adapt everywhere, because I'm literally in my own world. And I think maybe personal life, but I just leave it to what happens. I don't have any dreams in that. I only focus on my professional life. And it's something that fulfills me for now.
Could see your journey that it wasn't just a straight path, but you have found a way to kind of still do what you enjoy doing. So, thank you so much for your knowledge, for your time, because I know that for me, it's always a pleasure kind of speaking with clinicians that are equally, or if not more, passionate about what
I want to tell you the thing that helped me more in my profession. I was, as a student, as a school student also, because I gave second time exams, and also I worked too much in restaurants, and I paid my own studies in every aspect since my 18. I support my own self since I was 17 years old. So everything I accomplished, sometimes I'm happy more because I can make it. So I don't care about doing things.
Exactly.
And sometimes I'm more happy because I'm getting my own profit. And when I was a student, I was working in a restaurant, and also this helped me to be humble and talking around with people. And I really want to thank you for for asking me to be here. And
absolutely,
I want to applaud you also because of your degrees and everything you do, because you seem super busy around with many things. And you organize so perfect everything, even the timing. I was like, I'm always anxious in talking in public, also because of the language. I change many times of the day. So I'm really happy I talk English today, because all day here I work Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And many times I'm confused. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Así que te gusta el inglés.
Me gusta el inglés, pero hablo mucho español, sí.
Pero me encanta el español. For my guests, I was just telling her that, wow, she likes speaking English, but I also love speaking Spanish as well as English.
Really happy person. I hope you're enjoying everything and anything you want. And you have a friend from Greece, and I don't know where I'm going to be next season.
and likewise, I love my podcast too, because I get to make new friends, and I love the connections, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I know you have work, so I am going to
I have to in 30 minutes.
Thank you so much, Maria, and
thank you too.
Before you go, if you found this episode insightful, please take a second to rate and review medical experts in football on your favorite platform. That way, we can keep bringing you more episodes from top soccer medicine experts around the world. And of course, if you know someone who would love these episodes, share it with them. And I'll see you next month.